Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kesme 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Investigative committee attribute fatal Tema Aircraft crash to engine failure and pilot distraction. Also on the program this afternoon, Bank of Ghana direct Mobile Money Fintech Limited to suspend its proposed 0.75% fee on direct wallet to bank transfers. Later on the program, Pre-tertiary Teachers in Tarkwa-Nsuaem Municipality began a sit-down strike over the alleged assault on 3 teachers by armed military personnel earlier this month. Very much for joining us this afternoon. Now, the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau has attributed the cause of the March 17 aircraft crash to engine overheating. The investigation also noted that the pilot personnel texting activities may have caused distractions and interruptions. According to the report, these distractions, coupled with the pilot's limited access to instruments and switches due to his seating position, may have affected his ability to operate the aircraft efficiently. The report further described the pilot's failure to respond adequately to the engine overheating as a matter of major concern. The microlight aircraft crashed near a school park at Tema Community 1 while traveling from Ho to Accra on Midday, the 16th of March. The crash claimed the lives of the 2 occupants on board who were brothers. Let's first hear from Captain Paul Fojo, retired, before we speak to our correspondent George Quainin, who is currently monitoring the events for us.
On all the 3 flights conducted from Ho Airport on the 16th March 2026, the pilot occupied the rear seat, whilst the friend and the brother occupied the front pilot seat. This was not in compliance with the conditions of the flight permits and restricted access of the pilot in the rear seat to some critical instruments, warning lights, and switches. C. All 3 flights conducted from Ho Airport on the 16th of March 2026 were unauthorized, as they did not have valid permits to operate them. D. ATC was not aware of the details of the flight permits issued to the aircraft. E. Accra Airport and Ho Airport management were not aware of the details of the flight permits issued to the aircraft. F. The aircraft did not have any nominated maintenance facility or personnel responsible for providing maintenance service for the aircraft. G. Following the white smoke and engine overheat, the required maintenance actions were not performed. H. There are no records available of any maintenance action on the aircraft between 14 January 2026 and the last flight of 16 March 2026, during which 15 flights were executed. I. The aircraft most likely had an engine failure due to the engine overheating. J. The aircraft did not make a distress call or declare an emergency prior to the accident. And K. Contrary to the Act, ATC did not notify AIB Ghana of the accident. We saved you. Causes. The investigation believes that the aircraft most likely had an engine failure due to overheating. And also that the aircraft at which the engine failed was too low to enable the pilot find a suitable safe landing area. Now, contributory factors, which are the factors that if we're not present, that may not have happened, or which, whilst present, could have made happen. A, the failure to address the engine malfunctions identified at home, which required maintenance assistance to diagnose the root causes. The result of the undiagnosed malfunctions most likely worsened the malfunctions en route. B, pilot seated in the rear seat with limited access to the aircraft and engine instruments and switches needed during the critical stages of the flight. C, distractions due to persistent communication on his cell phone.
And you heard right there, Captain Paul Fojo, retired, who is in charge of the investigations. Let's speak to George Quainin. George, I know you've been speaking with Mr. John M.K. Wumbote, Commissioner of the Aircraft Accident and Incident Investigation and Prevention Bureau, AIB Ghana. What can you tell us about what more he's been saying?
So, Beatrice, thanks so much for your time. And like it was rightly announced, today was going to be a day where the report will be publicly announced, but this is actually 2 days ahead of the original date. It was supposed to be 29th, but they have to just bring it 2 days ahead because of the fact that they've had all the relevant information that they wanted. But one thing that will shock is the fact that they couldn't get the autopsy report from the Ghana Police Service after constant calls and communications with them. They still stay with them. So, but despite that, they still have to go on with the announcement. And these are what revelations. Clearly, like the lead investigator said, the accident is as a result of overheating, because at a point in time, the pilot was on his phone, and that was some sort of distraction. So he could not really work efficiently. So if he had not been distracted, he could have actually realized that the engine was overheated, which could actually salvage the situation. But these are wild revelations. But one thing that the Bureau wants people to know that is that during this very incident, people couldn't call them. They were the direct contact to call to maybe solve these issues, but it was very difficult for people to contact them. So moving forward, they want to just make sure they are really heard everywhere. They have some toll-free numbers that they want to put across, telephone numbers. When there's any incident or emergency, they have the right people to, as a citizen or a general public, there's numbers that you need to call. But people also think that they are only existing when they are accidents, but they also work behind the scenes where they prevented or for potential accidents. So people should not just go with that very notion that they only show up when there's an accident. They are working behind the scenes, and this is what we want to just project for the general public to know the issues.
So I want to understand, I heard you say that they couldn't get access to the autopsy report. Is this something that the team still intends to get, just to bring some sort of finality on that side as well?
It was something that I was really, critical about, because if you really wanted that to be a part of the report, if you don't have it, how is that going to impact your final report? But it didn't have any impact, clearly. And so once they've given it out, it doesn't really, they don't need it. But what they want the police service to know is that this is a joint effort that we are all putting together. So if it comes to your part where you're supposed to deliver, you make sure you have to deliver to your mandate. So basically, they're just reaching out to the Ghana Police Service to ensure that they ensure compliance levels are high. This is one too many times where they fail to do this. Reasons we cannot really tell, because the commissioner couldn't even give me reasons up front, because they've called them, contact them, mails and all that. They've not replied them. So they want them to sit up.
Beyond the report and the team's work, the people who are also impacted, as in the area where the aircraft crashed. We understand, you did bring us a report earlier that they were going to take them through psychological...
Sure.
Exactly. Can you tell us any update on that and how they are doing?
So the TMA, led by Ibi Bright, who is the executive, chief executive of the assembly, actually took the teachers and the headmasters to the administration. And if you go to the scene, it's actually been transformed into a playground, because there's this trauma. So turning into a playground will just divert that whole trauma out of the children. So there's a refreshing vibe there if you go there now. So there's another facility just in the same compound that is also being constructed just to augment infrastructure in that very school. This school was built by Kwame Nkrumah years ago. There's been no major renovation. So this is what has prompted a renovation in the school. And so according to the mayor, they'll make sure that most of these schools that were built during that era would also see some sort of renovation. Moving forward, to make sure they put things in the right places to avert, future occurrences of this sort.
Thank you very much, Comprehensive George Quainin, bringing us a report following the release of that report regarding that aircraft, which happened the 17th of March in Tema. And of course, we'll bring you more as and when we do have it. Now, a proposed 0.75% charge on Momo wallet to bank transfers has been suspended by the Bank of Ghana barely 24 hours after customers were notified that the fee would take effect from the 1st of June. The charge, which was to be capped at 5 Ghana cedis per transaction, triggered regulatory intervention, with the central bank directing Mobile Money Fintech Limited to put the implementation on hold pending further consultation. The bank says the pause is to ensure that any new charges in the mobile money ecosystem are introduced fairly, protect consumers, and support financial well-being. Let's speak to Julius Jima, who is a financial analyst. He joins us live on the phone. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon, Beatrice. Many thanks for having me.
Does the Bank of Ghana have the regulatory power to stop or suspend fee proposed by mobile money operator? In that case, a private business, really, or fintech, and where is the boundary really between the company's right and what the regulatory agency can do?
Yes, they do. If you look at the payment systems in the country, and then also Bank of Ghana have this fintech, so they regulate whatever payments in the country. So they do have that regulatory power in terms of anything that the telcos would want to do with regards to financial payments in the country.
And the information we had was to get this organization to suspend this. Is there a possibility they could actually outrightly prevent them from implementing this at all?
Yes. If you look at how the telcos, especially MTN, because they were the companies that we received the alert or the notice from. So I'm not speaking in terms of the other telcos. It's only MTN. This is also not from government. I've heard from the general media, social media, that government is introducing e-levy. Government is not introducing any e-levy from the back door. It's purely business, and it's purely market dictatorship. What the telcos, especially MTN, have realized is that they control the market. They have the monopoly. In fact, if you look at the data from Bank of Ghana with regards to payment systems data, the value on mobile money transactions alone have skyrocketed. If you look at between last year, April 2025, the number of transactions that happened were amounted to 778 million. Same April this year, 2026, it went up to 967 million. Now, that is the number of transactions. If you come to the value, so we'll put the figures together. Last year, April, the value was 365 billion Ghana cedis, and it went up to 493.2 billion Ghana cedis. And finally, on the balance on float, so if you look at all more balances on individual accounts, everybody compared to the individuals and then agents, last year, the data was 28.2 billion. And this year, April, the balance on float is 36.2 billion. So what the data is telling us is that MTN has that market share. They have the biggest market share in terms of payment system. And in fact, they've even threatened to establish a bank. And now it has become more convenient for people to use the Momo to transact. We are using it to pay bills, we are receiving. So there's this deposit and then also payment going on Momo transaction. So what the telco is just to take advantage of their position in the country and how they control the financial digital space or online transactions to be able to see what they can, take excess money from the public to be able to develop whatever their systems and then whatever IT support or infrastructure that they want to put in place.
If I hear you correctly, you're saying that MTN is making enough and people should not be asking or be asked to pay more in any form of new taxes, as it were.
Not necessarily. What I wanted to say is that if you look at the amount that is, MTN is actually controlling the space, even if you want to take more, I believe there are various administrative procedures, and then you relay it to your sector authority. Sector authority goes to the sector minister, it goes to cabinet, it goes to finance minister, and then they look at whether or not you can increase that charge. The Bank of Ghana will have to approve of it before you can hit the general public with any charge that you want to come. And they will have to now review whatever, cost-benefit analysis, the impact on the general economy, individuals and businesses, whether we are prepared to accept that charge. But when you take us by surprise that you send a message across, I received mine, and people were not happy about it, and quickly they just have to vent their anger on government, and even some are attacking the finance minister for bringing e-levy backdoor. That narration should be corrected. That mistake should be corrected. This is a telco. This is a business or a profit-making entity who is trying to take advantage of the services they render for the country.
But having made that point, though, for ordinary users who frequently move money from wallet to bank, how significant will this charge have been?
Oh, it's a serious deal. Like I said, if you look at the value, the amount of money that, MTN, Momo, if you look at the balances, some of them can even open a bank. So imagine the value of transactions about 493 billion Ghana cedis. And these are the transactions, the values. Even if you are doing about 50% is doing from Momo to wallet, that means those who have money or they receive money in their mobile money, they are able to, reliably send it onto the bank account, because now you can link your bank account to your Momo. So you can move the money to your bank account or move the money from your bank account back to your Momo account. And these are the convenience. This is, financial inclusion that we want to have as a country. Kenya is leading as Ghana is doing so well. So it is really significant, and it's concerning if this charge 0.75% is to come on even the balances that we have on our account. That is a lot of money that is going to the telco, especially MTN in this regard. And that is where government, should now step in, as the Bank of Ghana have rightly directed. And I believe that there should be stakeholder consultation between the Finance Ministry, the Ministry of Communication, the National Communication Authority to be able to streamline some of these notices that the telco have sent to the general public.
Beyond the consultation, what do you expect? Total cancellation or reduction?
As it stands, I would want to have the privilege of listening to the side of government, that is National Communication Authority, the Sector Minister Communication, Bank of Ghana. I would want to see whatever report that they would want to come up and study the system clearly and see whether or not what the MTN intends to do, they merit or they do not merit. But for now, any attempt to increase any charge will kind of put some sentiment or a scare in the public, where people would want to have some kind of panic withdrawal. You know how Ghana interprets some of these news and notices that comes on board. So for now, I would want them to stay and then not to be able to implement this particular charge. If there are any concerns, if they are making some calls or they are intending some calls that they need to bring to the attention of the sector ministry or the sector authority, they have to use that channel. I don't know if that has been done by the way, and then maybe government is not paying attention to them, but the general public, all of us, the media, would have to get opportunity to listen to the side of MTN, whether they've done that. If not, then we need those details to be able to really understand and make the analysis, much more better before we can pass some judgment on whether or not they need to implement this particular charge. But us as a consumer, I don't think, currently we are prepared to take on any further charge coming from mobile money transactions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jima, for speaking to us.
Thank you so much.
And you heard that Julius Jima, he is a financial analyst. Now, pre-tertiary teachers in the Tarkwa-Nsuaem Municipality have begun a sit-down strike over the alleged assault on 3 teachers by armed military personnel earlier this month. At a press conference in Tarkwa, they expressed shock at the indifference of the local education authorities over the welfare of the affected teachers. A Rama Smith report from the Western region.
On Monday, May 25, the leadership of NAT, NAGRAT and PRETAG held a high-stakes press conference here in the Western region. Their message was clear. The deadline has passed and patience is exhausted. It started earlier this month. 3 teachers from Tarkwa-Nsuaem Basic School, along with the husband of a female teacher, were reportedly assaulted by armed military men. Union leaders say the victims are still recovering from their wounds and the trauma.
As of the time of meeting you today, no authority has responded to our demands. In bracket, the Ghana Education Service and the Security Service.
But the unions are not just angry at the military. They have publicly rebuked the Tarkwa-Nsuaem Municipal Director of the GES, Catherine Andomensa. According to the unions, when she visited the school on the same day as the assault, she failed to advise the teachers to file a police report or seek medical care. But 5 days later, when she found the teachers still absent, she lambasted them over the phone, logged their absence in the school's logbook, and expressed annoyance that the female teacher was not at post while her injured husband convalesced.
It was surprising to hear that the Municipal Director of Education went there upon hearing that her teachers have been attacked. He wanted to see them in school, and when they were not there, he had to log that they were not in school without even adding that they were brutalized by the armed military men. It is very unfortunate. We expect her to have done something better than what he did.
The teachers gave authorities until Monday, May 25. With no response, Tuesday, May 26, all teachers in the municipality are wearing red bands and report to school but not teach. If their demands to deal with the perpetrators are still not met by June 1, a total indefinite strike will shut down all academic work in the municipality.
Teachers in the Tarkwa-Nsuaem Municipality will from Monday, June 1st, 2026, embark on total strike if the issues raised are not addressed. We humbly call on all teachers in the municipality to comply with the directive to help get justice for the affected colleagues. Let us unite and go by the slogan, tax one, tax all. Tax one, tax all.
Irama Smith.
And she brought us that report from the Western region. Members of the Ghana Leather and Footwear Manufacturers Association have hit the streets in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, to protest what they described as high import duties. The association also alleges that foreigners have flooded the retail market, describing it as a threat to local production and job creation. Gilbert Akwesin-Tim is the national president of the Leathers Association, and he addressed the media earlier. William Evans Income brought us more from that.
A nation that cannot fight its people is a nation who walk into a future with a bare foot. Over 70% footwear sold in Ghana from 2024 to 2025 is imported from China, with import value exceeding $40 million US. While Ghanaian footwear exports remain below $1 million. Meanwhile, Ghanaian local industry, which had capacity to employ thousands, continue to struggle. It has become a bare fact that many of us today standing here buy every pair of shoes. We bury our dreams at the port. We ship millions of dollars to China, and we import poverty back home. This is not just a business issue. It is a national economic concern. The Ghana Leather and Footwear Manufacturers Association, GALFAM, representing footwear manufacturer leather producers, traders across Ghana, wishes to express a deep concern over the massive inflow of cheap imported footwear from China that is threatening the survival of Ghana leather and shoes. This growing import imbalance poses a serious threat to Ghana leather, to Ghana local industry and the employment base. Specifically, it has wiped out market share of Ghana made footwear by over 30% in the past decade.
And you just heard the Gilbert Akwesine team. He's the national president of the Leathers Association. They addressed a press conference earlier. Now, still in Kumasi, the Krofro Market project has received a 100 million cedi funding boost to support its completion under the government 24-hour economic program. The Kumasi Metropolitan Chief Executive Richard Ofori Ajiman Buedi disclosed this at the Assembly meeting that the funds secured through the Social Investment Fund under the Ministry of Finance will help restart and accelerate work on the project, now estimated to cost 179 million Ghana cedis to complete. The Atachi Constructions-led project aims to provide modern trading facilities for thousands of traders, but many traders remain cautious, citing years of slow progress on the site. The chief executive further announced that a 7-member committee has been established to oversee space allocation and operational planning ahead of the market's completion in 2026.
Which will be named the day for 24-hour economic market project. Honorable Presiding Member, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to reiterate that the completion of the Krofro market remains at the core of my administration's development agenda. Accordingly, works on the site has resumed, with Atachi Constructions Limited, the anchor contractor, working diligently to ensure completion of the project. In furtherance of this, I undertook a series of engagements and lobbying efforts to facilitate the release of funds requiring to complete the project. This intervention became necessary as the allocation under the Assembly's share of the 24-hour economic project was substantially inadequate to guarantee full completion. Based on the consultant's estimates, an amount of 179 million cedis is required to complete the project. Honorable Presiding Member, I am pleased to announce that we have secured financial support of 100 million cedis from the Government of Ghana through the Social Investment Fund under the Ministry of Finance to support the completion of the project within schedule. Undoubtedly, this significant intervention underscores the unwavering commitment of His Excellency the President.
And in Heather, the Kumasi Metropolitan Chief Executive Richard Ofori Ajiman Buedi. You saw here on the Midday News on Shri FM 92.7. Now, the high demand for cattle and other livestock products is forcing traders to source live animals from neighboring countries like Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and Nigeria ahead of the Eid al-Adha celebrations when sales are expected to boom. At the Ashaman Tulaku Livestock Market, which is considered the biggest in West Africa, about 30 trucks fully loaded with cattle and other animals have arrived daily for butchers and consumers. Christian Yale finds out more about reasons these foreign-bred livestock are dominating the Ghanaian market and how much consumers pay to purchase them.
Okay. So that is how it is. Whenever you arrive here, everyone is a potential buyer. But let's see what it goes, how much is involved, and where they even source these cattle from. Located about 27 kilometers from Accra, the Tulaku Livestock Market has existed for decades and remains one of Ghana's most important livestock trading hubs. Thousands of cattle, sheep, goats, and other live animals are traded here daily alongside a vibrant abattoir business. But most of these animals are imported from neighboring countries.
All of my cattle, 100% from Nigeria, northern Nigeria. Yes.
Why is it that you bring them from Nigeria? Don't we have some in Ghana?
Okay, we have some in Ghana, but you see, sometimes the demand and the type of the meat that the butchers want is what we provide for them. You see, the cows from northern Nigeria, they are low in fat, and their meat is very, very sweet, very, very tender-like.
Curious about the cost involved in transporting the animals into Ghana, I asked him about the price range for a cow.
We used to pay 1,700, 1,800 per cow from Nigeria to here. But if you want to take it like with a trailer, you want to full a trailer, there's a charge for it. So when your cow is...
Christian Yali brought us that report. You get the full report later this evening on Hot Edition. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Log on to 2news.com for more news. Good afternoon.
FM 92.7, Facebook at 3FM 92.7, and also on 3news.com.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up this afternoon, Bank of Ghana suspends MTN's proposed 0.75% mobile money to bank transfer fee pending further consultation. Also, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry Board critiques Bank of Ghana's obsession with economic stability over growth and lower lending rates. And much later, Ghana's fixed income market opens week strong within 1.30 billion cedis turnover as Treasury bill dominates the activities. I am Enyonam Haligadito. So for our headlines and other stories, please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We'll start off with some news coming in as the Bank of Ghana has officially directed Mobile Money Fintech Limited to pause the implementation of a proposed 0.75% fee on direct wallet to bank transfers. There's more in the following 3 Business report.
Which was scheduled to take effect on June 1, 2026, has been put on hold to allow further consultation among key industry stakeholders. According to a press release issued Tuesday, May 26, 2026, by the Central Bank's Communications Department, the intervention reflects the regulator's commitment to ensuring that adjustments to charges within the mobile financial services ecosystem are introduced fairly, protect consumers, and support their overall financial well-being. The suspension halts the controversial commercial tariff update, which would have applied a 0.75% flat fee capped at 5 cedis on all outward transfers from mobile money wallets to bank accounts, including previously free transfers between a user's own linked account. The central bank has not yet provided a timeline for how long the suspension will last or when the consultation process will conclude.
That was a 3 Business News Desk report on the Bank of Ghana suspending MTN's proposed 0.75% mobile money to bank transfer fee, which is pending further consultation. Meanwhile, Ghana has seen rapid growth in mobile money usage over the past decade, with millions of people relying on mobile wallets for daily transactions, including transfers, savings, and payments. Industry data from the central bank has consistently shown mobile money transactions running into billions of cedis annually, making the sector a key driver of digital finance and economic activity. As of April 2026, there's approximately 83 million registered mobile money accounts in Ghana, with about 26 million active accounts. In April 2026 alone, mobile money transaction reached a record 493.2 billion cedis, with an average of roughly 26 million daily transactions across the country. Now moving on to some other stories now, as the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Bedu Abuaje, has criticized the central bank's monetary stance, arguing that over-obsession with economic stability without corresponding growth and development yield little benefits for the local business community. Speaking on the trajectory of borrowing costs, Bedu Abuaje stated that the Bank of Ghana has missed opportunities to significantly slash its policy rate, an action that is desperately needed to trigger a meaningful reduction in commercial bank lending rates.
We've gotten to a level where we could have been able to reduce the policy rate by a certain margin. But because we are so obsessed with stability, which of course I'm not saying is not good, is good, but stability without growth and development is basically nothing. We have seen stability since the beginning of last year to now. He's talking about the fact that lending rate to the private sector has increased. But lending rate to the key sectors of the economy, like manufacturing, go and check, it's minimal. Where is the credit going? Those who are importing. So if you really want to transform our economy, that sustained reduction in the policy rate and the lending rate, for me, is key. If we had reduced the policy rate by even a smaller margin, then the lending rate will also follow and also come down. Now, lending rate of 16%. A typical business person will not get it at 16%. 16% is actually for those with high credibility, average. The typical business person in Ghana is perceived as highly risk person. And so anytime they go to the bank, they won't get it at the 16%. In fact, I have had some discussion with some of our members for the past 2 weeks. I wanting to know what is the rate at which they are borrowing at the banks. With the conversation that interest rates are going down, they are getting it at 16%. Largely, most of them are getting it between 19 and 21%.
And you heard the voice of the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Bedu Abuaje, there. Trading activity on the Ghana fixed income markets kicked off this week with a remarkable momentum, clocking in a total turnover of 1.30 billion cedis on Monday. According to market data from the Ghana fixed income market, investors executed 281 transactions, demonstrating a heavy bias towards short-term government securities amid a low-yielding environment and ongoing portfolio rebalancing. There's more details in this report. Treasury bills stole the spotlight, accounting for nearly 60% of the total market turnover. Investors exchanged over 772 million cedis across 241 trades, highlighting a persistent preference for shorter maturities where liquidity is deeper and duration risk is mitigated. The star of the session was a specific Treasury bill maturing in February 2027, which alone pulled in over 402 million cedis, closing at a yield of 9.12%. Meanwhile, sell and buyback transaction injected another 330 million cedis into the market, while domestic debt exchange program bonds contributed about 15% of total activity, crossing 196 million cedis. In stark contrast, corporate bonds and new Government of Ghana notes saw thin trading, barely making a dent in the day's turnover. Three business notes that while the market is adjusting to lower interest rate and broader macroeconomic stabilization, investor appetite remains anchored on the very short end of the curve. Monday's robust performance signaled strong cash management activity among institutional investors, though long-term duration risks continue to be approached with caution. And before we go, in a major move to restore regulatory stability to Ghana's extractive sector, the government has announced plans to submit a substantial backlog of outstanding mining agreements to Parliament for formal ratification. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakufi-Boat, revealed this in Accra that the executive has already engaged parliamentary leadership to clear the long-standing constitutional bottleneck. There's more on this in this report. This administrative push comes amid swelling public debate regarding the legal status of the Damang gold mine, where operations have continued under an interim framework while its new lease transitions through state bureaucracy. The regulatory gap is far from unique So the recent demand transition as historical Supreme Court filings show that dozens of mining firms, including major foreign-controlled operators, have regularly produced and exported minerals for years while awaiting parliamentary approval under Article 268 of the Constitution. Sector Minister Emmanuel Amakofibua has emphasized that the Minerals Commission is legally empowered to deploy interim measures to safeguard strategic asset, meaning producing mines cannot simply be abandoned and trigger mass layoff while state paperwork crawls forward. By normalizing these agreements through proper legislative channels, government aims to establish a consistent, non-selective legal standard for both domestic and foreign mining firms, reassuring the investment community that industry dispute will be resolved through predictable due process rather than sudden administrative action. This administrative push comes amid swelling public debate regarding the legal status of the Damang Gold Mine, where operations have continued under an interim framework while its new lease transitions through state bureaucracy. The regulatory gap is far from unique to the recent demand transition, as historical Supreme Court filings show that dozens of mining firms, including major foreign-controlled operators, have regularly produced and exported minerals for years while awaiting parliamentary approval under Article 268 of the 1992 Constitution. Sector Minister Emmanuel Amakofibua has emphasized that the Minerals Commission is legally empowered to deploy interim measures to safeguard strategic asset, meaning producing mines cannot simply be abandoned and trigger mass layoffs while state paperwork crawls forward. And that was a 3Business report on the government of Ghana tabling backlog of mining leases for parliamentary ratification to restore industry certainty. And that's how we end Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. For more news, please check our website at 3news.com. I am Enyonam Haliga. Stay with us.